Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. This week's conversation, we are going to be talking about a parent question regarding boundaries and social media. But before we jump into that, I just guess I want to reflect a little bit on the news. The news has had lots going on, but when it comes to technology, three things stood out to me. First, when we think about technology, not just the phones we use or social media we use, but the technology as it affects humanity, we have the Artemis II crew flying right now. So a NASA space project where they have flown around the backside of the moon. They are on their way earthbound at this point, and will land at the end of this week as of this recording, and looking towards 2027 and more, sending more people into space and potentially like tourism to the moon and all sorts of ideas on what this could lead to. But that's a fascinating project as they are using advanced technology, certainly, and hordes of people. I mean, just so many humans go into making this work. So yes, we can use things like AI, and yes, we can use advanced machines and computers. And at the end of the day, like, these projects only matter because of how they affect humans and the science that may or may not come from it and the discoveries that happen along the way that we never expected in terms of just even how we go about, like one of the big two of the kind of interesting takeaways was seeing an eclipse from the backside of the moon. Like, that's just a neat process as we try to figure out, like, is reality what we think reality is like? We know a lot about space, but like, we also know very little. And then on the backside of the moon, they were watching meteor strikes. And so they could see little puffs of dust when it is silhouetted by the earth shine, if you will, like the glow from the other side. And so that is just a cool, like, people who like to nerd out about science, like, that's neat. The second thing that stood out to me was the U.S. Federal Communications Commission. So they are being pressed by a couple scientific communities to reflect on whether we should move forward with future advancements, and specifically two more space-based advancements. One being these space mirrors, and the idea would be you could get solar power any time of day, because at night you could use these space mirrors to project light back onto your solar arrays. Super neat idea. And like, we've already seen solar arrays just like bake birds and mess up migratory patterns, and like, there's some downsides to massive solar arrays, and we're mitigating some of that with how we design new solar panels, but we should look carefully before we just jump both feet into giant space lasers. It's not lasers, I know, they're mirrors, but that idea of projecting sunlight during the night so intensely in an area that it can still collect daylight style power. Like, let's look at maybe the downsides, because we don't always do that great. But that is interesting. The second one then is SpaceX wants to build AI centers in space. They want to do a lot of stuff. Like, Musk has the idea of creating microchips on the backside of the moon. So there's lots of ideas, but this would be one of going and creating, if cooling is one of the main downsides for AI, specifically because of its processing power. And so we're pumping things like water through there, and that's creating issues on the Earth. And maybe we just launch them as, networks in space and allow space to do its vacuum thing. Cool concept. But like, let's think about just the amount of things we're putting out there, and what are we going to rely on for that, and how safe is it if it's out there. And in other news, not related to this article, but a particular country has said, hey, that's a nice, satellite network you have there. I almost said Skynet, and now Starlink. Like, that'd be awful if something were to happen to it, because it's not technically controlled by a government. So like, that wouldn't be an act of war to like knock down a bunch of Starlink satellites. Okay, that's just the internet you're losing. But if you are running massive AI, like, let's think through that. And then the third and final one is that replacing an hour of passive sedentary screen time. So I'm sitting and I'm watching TV, or I'm sitting and I'm just scrolling the internet. If you replace an hour of it, you have a 7% reduction in dementia risk. This is a 19-year-long study done out of Sweden. I'll include it's from Science Direct, is the group that I got the article from, but you can check that. The researchers were Wernick, Wheeler, and colleagues, came out here in 2026. And just that idea that like this is passive, it might be as simple as television. This isn't just social media based, but that idea that like our technology does affect us. And the reason I pick these three is not just because they're fun facts, but because we need to think about what we're actually doing with our technology. So yes, we've seen in the last 2 years, social media, we have finally getting some of the research and some of the statistics to say, hey, like social media could be fine. It's not currently going well, specifically with the developing minds of our children that we have just been throwing on the internet and giving smartphones and saying, we grew up, so you probably will too. And they are growing up, but like they're growing up in some ways that we aren't super proud of and we aren't extremely happy with, and they're not super pleased with as they turn 20 and go, wait a minute, you guys did what when I was 13? When we think about this, then we live in this era now where we have 3 years of everyone having access to AI, and we haven't asked all the big questions about it. These are not entities that can be held responsible for their actions. These are products being produced by companies, being run by people. And similarly, when we are making space mirrors, or when we are putting chip processors on the moon, or when we are sitting in front of a TV and putting ourselves at an increased risk of dementia, like we need to be thinking about our actions, not because tech is scary, but because tech is a tool, and we need to make sure that we're using it well to achieve the ends we want, not just any end, not progress at all cost, because there are progressions and directions we don't want to make. And that is something when I think about the gospel aspect of our tech conversations, that we are made in the image of God. So we are not God. We are not begotten of God. We are children of God, as it were, adopted into his family because of his grace and mercy. What are we? We're human. We're made in the image of God. So we have intrinsic value. We reflect some of God's likeness. We are creative by nature. Adam in the garden was doing creative work in the garden. He was designated to keep the garden and work it. So there was work in the garden well before there were weeds. I'm assuming those were creative acts he was going to be participating in, and that would have been a beautiful process that we reflect a little bit of now. And then we were made for relationship, and we were designed for a purpose, to glorify God and to enjoy him. Those were all true before the fall. There's a piece of us in the ingenuity and the creativity and the problem-solving aspect of that device or that artistic piece that is reflective of the designer, but it isn't equal to the designer. Machines and sculptures do not have human rights because they're not human. And that just is an interesting reflection. As we see machines reflect a little bit of us and we reflect a little bit of God in that process, there's a lot of beauty in that. There's a lot of good in that. And we need to be very intentional, because making those machines does not somehow make us or more human or better humans. In fact, they can reflect the absolute worst of us, including some of our best laid plans go back and look at what we said public television would do for humanity. And instead we decided to produce what people wanted rather than maybe what they needed. I think if all TV was Mr. Rogers, we wouldn't have quite so many issues these days. Just those three, the Artemis crew, the FCC, and the recent study on a rise of dementia from more sedentary tech use, is all valuable and should help us reflect on what are we using, why are we using it, and is it helping us to look more like Jesus? The fruit of the Spirit are a thing, and you can absolutely produce love, joy, peace, and patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Very cool. You can do that using tech. And sometimes we don't. So let's reflect on that. All right, parent question. Excuse me. Got to ask the question about boundaries in social media use. And the question is phrased, so here, what boundaries should I set for social media use to protect my teenager's mental health? So this is a tricky question in that it's framed in a way that I don't know if your teen already has experienced struggles with mental health, which would change the way I answer this. So let's kind of tackle it from both sides. Let's say your child does not currently struggle with mental health issues. Let's say you just have a young child who's that says teenager, so 13. You have a 13-year-old and they want social media and you've given them some access. I will just take even a step back. The best way to protect your child for mental health issues specifically is to not allow him or her on social media. Like, just don't do it. Your child's 13, he or she deserves a childhood. Let's keep it at that. That is the safest place for your child to be. It's not perfectly safe. Childhood is traumatic in any form. And building real world friendships, having real world fun at the pace of real life, so analog adventures. This child is going to learn how to build some responsibility, build some real world risk, learn how to mitigate that risk by himself or herself, learn to have free play. These are what Jonathan Haidt and the Anxious Generation point out is important for building resilient young people, not just safe children, but healthy adults. They need risk, responsibility, and free play. So let's build that in. Now, your child wants some access to social media, be it to stay in communication with friends or to be a part of the sports team or to just experience some creativity or watch shows he or she likes or whatever. All right. So you're going to let your child on social media, then do it from your device. That's boundary one. You don't get your own device. You don't get your own profile on social media. You don't need that. And even if you did go professional in that, you still don't need to be running your own profile. You can run that through mine. I can make sure I'm a part of that. I can help manage this. Like, we will make sure there's an adult on the scene so that your independence and your creativity online can absolutely be present and an option. And there can be a loving adult always present and in the talk or in the loop, in the conversation, so that if and when something goes sideways, there's always someone who cares about you to talk through both what could happen and maybe what has happened. So first, don't use it. 13-year-olds don't need that. Then, if they feel like they do need it, use it through your device. You should be managing that account and be actively present in that. Even the most responsible, best young person on the planet does not need independence online at the age of 13 because the internet was not made for 13-year-olds. And every time we try to make it for 13-year-olds, we basically just put all the minors in a barrel and let all the creepers show up. So that's my little tirade there. Now, let's say you have a non-13-year-old. You have a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and this person has asked for social media. You said, okay, I have determined that this tech is safe. It is an egg. You've asked me for a good gift, and I can confirm this is a good gift. Or it's not the safest gift in the world, but like, you're old enough, you're ready for it. You've shown healthy choices in real life. So your reset, your relationships, emotion, sleep, enjoyment, time, they're going well at the pace of real life. You're involved, you're engaged, you make good choices, you can take feedback, you respond well to correction, you know how to rebuild burned bridges. Like, you've done the hard stuff in real life. And like, yes, digital spaces. Let's start getting that out there. So that's important because if you have a 16 or a 17-year-old who has asked for technology and is not healthy with their reset. I have a young man who has committed a felony using social media and has had his phone taken away and is now asking for it again. And he's not actually asking. He's demanding and then complaining when his demands are not met. My parents don't care about me. They're mean. When I turn 18, I'm going to do this anyway, so you might as well give it to me now. That young man should not be given social media by his parents. He's literally said, I'm not sorry. I will do it again. I don't care that it's against the law or it hurts others and myself. I'm going to do it. So give me my tech. The short answer is no. The long answer is no, I don't hate you. I love you. I want you to make the best choices. You don't want that for yourself, but I can actually believe more in you than you do, and I will not be party to this self-destructive behavior. So the answer in that case is no. 17-year-old, 16-year-old, I get it. I understand you want independence. We're not there yet. So no, I'm not going to provide you that social media. That's the safest boundary. What about the 16 or 17-year-old though, who has the healthy reset? All right. So now he or she has earned the smart device. Now they've earned social media on that smart device. I like Android devices because we can pick it. That's boundary one. Get a device that allows you to still be an intentional parent in the process. By that I mean, let's make sure we can give them social media that is the best option. TikTok is the worst option for them when it comes to social media. Best would be things that are specifically friend-to-friend contacts. So, I mean, FaceTime. But then you have your WhatsApp and you have, oh my goodness, the one that I cannot think of it right now. But there are ones that are basically like walkie-talkies. And like they allow you, Marco Polo was one I was trying to think of. There's another one. But they allow you to communicate with individuals you know. There's minimal feed features. You might be able to search for individuals, but like you can There are parental controls where you can manage who can contact. And then you go into your more typical, your Snapchats and your Instagram. Instagram is going to be better than Snapchat. And I'm saying better lightly because, yeah, people will find you and people will send you messages. And there will just be images that are unhelpful and triggering, both on the violent side and on the sexual side, on the world news side and on just the random content side that is brain rot is what we call it now, because it does in fact just rot your brain, even if it's entertaining. Like you just feel less awesome after having viewed it a lot. So Instagram and then Snapchat, and then you eventually end up in the world of the TikToks, which just give you so much info that is so hard to manage and to ensure that the content will be good.
Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of three things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves, to be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others.
So then what's our next layer of defense? You have something on that. The first one is we're going to make sure we release only the apps that you're ready for, the social media platforms that are an appropriate level of maturity, and maybe never get to a Reddit that you just have free reign of, where the entirety of the internet is just there in categories now. Then we go to, we need some boundaries. So that phone is going to have some kind of a hedge built around it. Maybe it's a bark where we are ensuring that there's a second set of eyes in case pornography comes across that device. But then also, I said bark. I meant covenant eyes. And then bark is for the social media and the relational side. So if people are bullying, or people are asking to keep secrets, or people are talking about drugs or self-harm or mental health issues, if your child is chatting with a bot or an AI, a relational AI, you will get updates on those. So that's your next layer of hedge. And actually, I skipped one because the relational hedge, I alluded to it when I talked about the reset, the relationships, emotion, sleep, enjoyment, time. But you do need to have relational hedge before your child is given the good gift of whatever technology he or she has earned. The relational hedge is the most important, because at the end of the day, no amount of boundaries we build will keep your child safe if they want to make a mistake. They're too smart, they have too much motivation, they have too much time on their hands. They will ask a friend, they will ask the internet, they will find a way to make a mistake on your watch using your technology. If they want to, if they're that 15-year-old who's like, I'm going to burn this place to the ground and I'm going to love it. Like, that child will make those mistakes given the opportunity. Lord, barring the Lord intervening and heart change and true repentance. You can't just build enough boundaries and give it to the kid and go, fine, just get off my back, but like, I'm watching what you do. No, you're not. That child is running the show at this point. So yes, we delay and we give the child the childhood. And then when they're responsible enough, we give the tech with the idea that we have established relationships. So we're going to talk about their purpose in Christ and that our love for them reflects God's love for them. And that means we're going to help make some hard choices. So we're going to say yes to some awesome things and no to some potentially awesome things that aren't worth the trade-off. We're going to set some time boundaries when this technology is available. We're going to set some location boundaries where this technology can be used. Like, we're not going to use it at dinner. We're not going to use it in our bedrooms. No one needs a $1,000 alarm clock. This thing's going to leave your room and you're going to wake up with a normal person alarm clock. Parents, we're going to model this for them. And we can look at things like, well, what if we're in the car? What if we're around people? What if we're at school? Like, what are our rules for these things? We're going to have those. And we're going to take kids' feedback. They might say, yeah, but what about this scenario or this time or on these special occasions? Great. Have a relationship, talk it out. It is open for discussion, but parents, you're still the parents. At the end of the day, you do need to make these conversations. And yes, I'm not saying there's no need for legislation because people's thoughts don't matter really in a social setting until there's a country on board with those thoughts. So we can give mental assent to a lot of things, but we also need our country to pivot its rules and say we believe children should be protected from harmful tech design. Great, let's do that. So I'm not excusing tech companies. I am saying it begins at home with the parents, that we can take responsibility, and that delaying is a beautiful step. As Chris McKenna with Protect Young Eyes loves to say, delay is the way. And I love that pithy little statement. Your child, let's see, technology can wait, childhood can't, is the way I like to say this. You only get childhood for this little season. Let's let our children maximize as much time as they have to learn and to grow and to struggle and to be anxious and stressed and to figure these things out at the pace of real life without an entire world of comparison and temptation and distraction at their fingertips. We're going to have the relationship piece. We're going to talk about the content that we find as a family to be appropriate. That Philippians 4:8 test of like, is this true and noble and lovely and pure? And like, do we want this in our lives? Is it a net gain? And in these conversations, the process matters as much as the outcome. So you choose to watch that show. Okay, I really care about why. Like, why are you doing that? And if it's because it's worth the conversation, it's worth the family time, it's a yes you can say yes to, and you can still see good fruit come from your kid, awesome. That's more important than, well, I said no because Sutherland said so. And like, great, that's wonderful, but I'm not sure that execution is landing well. And I want to make sure that the relationship is first, because that's what's going to make it beyond whatever this next piece of tech or this next game is. That relationship is really key. So start with a relationship, then have that first hedge of we're going to release only the good social media, then have the hedge of we're going to have technology on that device to make sure that device is following our family rules and the relational conversations we've had. The relationship then steps in. If something goes wrong, I remove it, not because I'm mad at you, but because I love you and we have a relationship. So you don't have to be happy about this going away, but like, you also shouldn't be shocked. Like, I don't want this to be the first time you've thought about the fact that this technology is optional, because you're not. Like, I need to have said that up front, said it frequently, talked about it regularly. And then if something comes up, we adjust. And then when my child continues to grow and be healthy and asks for it again and is showing that real life responsibility, then we find new ways to release healthy amounts of tech. Parents, please listen to this. The goal is not for your child to be 18 and have all the tech on the planet available to them. The goal is your child turns 18 and knows his or her goals, his or her identity in Christ, and his or her limits. So they may end up being a full-grown adult man like me who's 43 with 3 kids. And you know what? I can't use all the technology that I would love to use. I don't play video games anymore, and I haven't since May 15th, 2011, because I can't play them and be healthy. I don't have social media on my phone because I simply can't focus and get real life done and have constant access to social media, even though I use it as part of my job. I don't have email on my phone. I don't have an unlocked phone with an app store. I have someone who has set parental controls on my device and set a code on it because I don't need an app store. Like, these are things I've done and I've asked other people around me to support me in because I like making good choices and I like using the best tech well. That's our goal for our kids when they turn 18. Our goal is to have young people who are now adults who understand their purpose and identity in Christ, their limits with technology, and the extent to which technology can support them in their goals and distract them from them. So that's what I would say for what we could do with what hedges we could put in place. So start with the relational hedge. Start with a conversation about healthy tech use, and then build that relational hedge of talking about your content, your time, your place. Then if your child earns that with a healthy reset, think in the appropriate stage of life, either your device or their own device that you can release just particular social media that's going to be good for them, then have technology installed on that to make sure that that's going correctly, and make sure that relational hedge is a regular part. The conversation about what's working well, what's going poorly, where do your friends seem to struggle with tech, what do you see as being a boon, what produces good fruit for you in your life, and what is a distraction from what God's calling you to be. So that would be my answer on that. I guess my final encouragement would be the most important part is being engaged in the conversation, and delaying is always a good option, because at the end of the day, we get this beautiful period of time of childhood that God has designed for our children to grow and experience risk and responsibility and free play. And they will have all of adulthood to figure out how to navigate a tech world. So just be wise and don't feel undue pressure. We are not seeing a bunch of children not get hired because they didn't have iPhones when they turned 18. Like, that's not the cause of any part of the current work crises that we see across different industries. What we are seeing is it's critical that kids know how to build relationships, how to maintain them, how to be part of a team, how to use intentional tool tech, and how to mitigate the distracting drool tech while they're working towards the goals God's put on their heart. So I hope this is encouraging and helpful. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Nathan@gospeltech.net. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Love God Use Tech. And you can join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech.